Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This might be a shorter video. We'll see what happens here. I have a thing to do. I was going to do it in the introduction, but I'll do it at the end. Um, I want to talk about, what's happened with this idea of election denial and, the idea of conspiracy theories and things, and how it's, a citizen's duty to call out, the possibility of election fraud. Um, let's start here with the Balenciaga, is that how it is? Balenciaga finally admits to mistakes in distributing BDSM ad campaign, condemns child abuse amid scandal. I was kind of surprised by, here's the, we would like to address the controversy surrounding our recent ad campaigns. We strongly condemn child abuse. What? It was never our intent to include it in our narrative. The two separate ad campaigns in question reflect a series of grievous errors for which Balenciaga takes responsibility. The first campaign, this takes responsibility. We will come back to that because it's hilarious. The first campaign, the gift collection campaign, featured children with a plush bear bags dressed in what some have labeled BDSM-inspired outfits. What do you mean some? That's what it is. What are you talking about? What are you talking about here? How is that not BDSM? What do you think that is, right? That's not appropriate. What do you mean some have labeled? You should have said that's not taking responsibility. That you put them in a BDSM. That's what some have said. You wouldn't be saying this if it's some had said. Everybody knows what it is, right? Not some has said. It's a fact that it's BDSM, whatever it is, right? Our plush bear bags and gift collection should not have been featured with children. This was wrong choice by Balenciaga. Combined with our failure in assessing and validating images, the responsibility for this lies with Balenciaga alone. The second separate ad campaign for the spring of 2023, which was meant to replicate a business office environment, included a photo with a page in the background from a Supreme Court ruling, United States versus Williams, 2008, which confirms as illegal and not protected by the freedom of speech the promotion of child pornography. All the items included in the shooting were provided by third parties that confirm in writing that these props were fake office documents. This third party, who is this evil third party that you're taking responsibility for, right? They turned out to be real legal papers, most likely coming from a filming of a television drama. The inclusion of these unapproved documents was the result of reckless negligence for which Balenciaga has filed a complaint. They filed a complaint. That's how they're taking responsibility. We take full accountability for our lack of oversight and the control of the documents in the background, and we could have done things differently. While internal and external investigations are ongoing, we are taking the following actions. We are closely revising our organization and collective ways of working. We are reinforcing the structures around our creative processes and validation steps. We want to ensure the new controls mark a pivot and will prevent this from happening. We are all laying the groundwork with organizations who specialize in child protection and aims at ending child abuse and exploitation. We want to learn from our mistakes and identify ways we can contribute. Balenciaga reiterates its sincere apologies for the offense we caused and intends its apology to talents and partners. Okay, well, so this BDSM thing, right? Why do they even have a plush BDSM teddy bear bag? Because it's a childlike thing, right? If you put one or both of these teddy bear bags under a Christmas tree and you didn't wrap it and you had like one kid, the kid would be like, oh, that's for me, right? It's not for mommy. It's for me because it's a teddy bear and they wouldn't know what it's dressed in. Hopefully they wouldn't understand it. And so, that's the problem when you bring perversion into cartoons and teddy bear bags or whatever it is, right? Kids associate cartoons. They don't know it's an R-rated cartoon. When you see a cartoon, you're a kid, you're like, oh, that's for me, right? And, when you see a teddy bear bag, you're like, oh, that's for kids. Because usually they are. And it's going to be like if a woman's wearing this, walking down New York City, carrying this plush teddy bear bag, kids are going to look at it and want it, right? Kids are going to, or whatever it is, right? It's going to attract the attention of kids because it's a plush teddy bear, which is associated with children. And so both of the bear, they shouldn't even have these things. These overpriced, pretentious, crappy stuff they do. And then this stuff with the white rabbit, all of it, right? There's a, collar here, the chains, all of these things. And so why do they have this right here? This is this is for like little kids, right? This is what, and it just shouldn't exist as a product. And of course they're going to put a kid in there. But the biggest part of this was that you're only saying these things because you got caught. And that's the main problem with all these, celebrity, all this kind of stuff. People get caught and then they're sorry, right? They're sorry after they get caught. They're not sorry before they get caught. And, all of these other things. Same thing here with Kim Kardashian. She's disgusted and outraged by Balenciaga holiday campaign. It says, I've been quiet for the past few days, not because I haven't been disgusted and outraged by the recent Balenciaga campaigns, because I wanted an opportunity to speak to their team to understand for myself how this could have happened. The safety of children must be held with the highest regard, and attempts to normalize child abuse of any kind should have no place in society, period. Again, if she had been the first person to call them out, as opposed to being pressured by all the people who associate her with their campaign. There's another one here somewhere with her in it. This was one here. Balenciaga apologized for ad campaign as Kim Kardashian reevaluates their deal. So here, again, there's the one picture. They have the other one here. This is her in this weird tape stuff, right? Here's show the other picture here. Like that's another, these are both, why do they have these products, right? And so both of them are extremely disturbing. And then here's her in the Balenciaga tape, right? This $3,000 piece of crap purse that, why would anybody have that as a purse, right? And this, the caution tape, like associated with murder and all these things. It's weird, twisted, pretentious fashion, overpriced fashion, which is a crime in itself, right? But then there's this person, Julia Fox, who has, been a regular now on New York Post. And she's now being opinionated about world events, and she's, dumb and crazy, right? Thoughts on Balenciaga?
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of comments and tags and everything. So, first things first, I'm not their spokesperson. I have zero relationship with the brand. I've never even been to one of their shows. They haven't invited me. Regardless.
You're not their spokesperson? Just crazy. This dude is crazy. I mean, just
I think it's horrific. And when I was reading and watching all the videos, I literally felt sick to my stomach.
Sick to my stomach. I felt sick to my stomach. It's horrific.
But I couldn't help but think, like, damn, the women who are associated to the brand professionally.
Why are the women being blamed for a man's mistake? It's the internalized misogyny for me.
Are getting so much pushback, and it's like almost as if they're the child molesters.
Yeah, they're not.
And then another thought popped into my head. No child was actually harmed in that shoot.
Yeah, that's not, what do you mean harmed in that shoot? There's an energy and consciousness to this thing, right?
But millions of children are harmed in the church every day. And I don't see
Where's the outrage?
hashtag cancel the church anywhere.
Yeah, there's lots of outrage of the church. Cancel the church is not the same thing as a private business. You know, what's happened in the Catholic Church and other churches, this is in Catholicism, it's in religions in general. But her saying, where's the outrage? There's lots of outrage about what's happened in the church. What are you talking about, right? I mean, there's been, billions of dollars of lawsuits settled. And I mean, there should be priests that have gone to jail. That's the one thing. They've gotten away with stuff or it's been less for them. But I mean, this like unbelievably, crazy dope here.
Anyway, those are my thoughts.
They're wonderful thoughts they are. Okay, so I got some Kanye stuff and more Kim Kardashian stuff here. I guess the whole Kardashian family. But this is he was on some podcast and Kanye walked out. Ye walked out. Um, I'm not sure why, because I think they wouldn't say it was Jewish people. I'm not sure what. But this is about his handler, Harley Pasternak.
It too far. It was like American History X. Like my head was on the side of the curve, and the exact people that I called out kicked my head. We found out that my trainer was a MK Ultra Canadian intelligence.
He worked in the defense research and development in the Canadian military, essentially working on psyops
Who's
in
this
the
guy?
Canadian military. This is Harley Pasternak.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, look,
So Harley Pasternak, was the guy that I talked about in the last video. And now they've found out that he was a part of the Canadian PSYOP unit, military PSYOP. So where the guy got where he thinks he had the power, if he did legitimately have the power to get Kanye institutionalized, that's the guy who said he would get him institutionalized and zombify him with medications so he wouldn't even be able to interact with his own children. And so, that's a kind of a more important story. I mean, the Balenciaga thing is big too, in its, way. The good thing about the Balenciaga story, I was surprised that they had to apologize. This is one of the few times where a corporation gets called out. Like, they're not going to get really punished, and it's embarrassing or whatever. But they do this kind of stuff all the time. The modeling industry, the fashion industry is really twisted. But when a person is threatening to imprison somebody for speaking out, going off script, a celebrity, and institutionalize them, that's a whole, child abuse, sexual abuse is the foundation for all criminal behaviors and, the twisted nature of our society. So they're both, I can't say one's worse than the other, but imprisoning people through psychological holes, that is, a level of power and control that just shouldn't be in society, right? Kim Kardashian tells daughter North about the night she was conceived. She conceived her with Kanye West. From admitting to her grandmother that she and ex-boyfriend Pete Davidson had sex in front of the fireplace, to dishing out too much information story about getting it on in a public movie theater, whatever it is, Kim Kardashian's no stranger to saying these things. In one of the clips, Kardashian explained how the French fashion icon might have something to do with North's creation. Northy, I've known Olivier or Oliver or whatever since before you were a baby. I Northy, I know Olivier ever since before you were a baby. I haven't done the thing for a while. The mother of four revealed she was wearing a blue gown designed by Ross Lingtings, 36, on the night she conceived North with ex-husband. Yay, there's the dress right there. Is that the dress? That was the dress that brought you into this world. It's a lot. They've told this kid a lot. Kanye, when he was running for president, said that he wanted to abort her. And gave Daddy this blue dress that Daddy wanted for me. It was my birthday the year before you were born. I wore the dress, and I got pregnant, and you got in my belly the night I wore that dress. So there's that. There's one here. Kourtney Kardashian, I wish I could breastfeed Khloe's newborn son. Because the big one has, the big one doesn't have the ability to breastfeed, apparently. Donald Trump calls Kanye West seriously troubled man and rant about Mar-a-Lago meeting. We'll come back to that. There's more about this as we go through it. But Trump will bail on anybody when he gets in trouble. We've seen this before. He's blaming the whole thing on Kanye, on Ye. Kim Kardashian posts about relationship failure amid Pete Emrata's romance. I don't know. Everyday Hero Manifesto. It says here, the reality star posts an expert from Robin Sharma's Everyday Hero Manifesto. Things I wish I known at 40. And her Instagram story. Your choice of relationship partner is one of the main sources of your success or failure, joy or misery, tranquility or worry. Well, why would anybody in the right mind think dating Pete Davidson is going to lead to good things, right? But whatever. Kanye dines with Kim Kardashian's ex, Ray J, amid ongoing backlash. Ray J, of course, did the, is that Kid Rock? Yeah, it's Kid Rock. Ray J, Kid Rock, and Ye. Who gets to talk? Like, do they have like a stick or something? You got the only person holding the, gets to talk or whatever it is. He's the guy in the sex tape. Kanye West on Balenciaga campaign scandal. All celebrities are controlled.
They tried to destroy me in press. They tried to destroy all of my businesses at the same time, and the world saw it, and no one's saying anything. As far as like none of the celebrities, so this just shows you all celebrities are controlled. You don't see no celebrities talking about the Balenciaga situation, right? So that just shows you all of these celebrities out here, don't let them influence you in any way because they're controlled by the people who really influence the world.
So I'm in the editing process. I've completed this part of the video, then I did my voiceover, and then I found YouTube recommended a video with the Hammer guy and Rachel Maddow. You know who the Hammer guy is. We'll show him again. I'll do the meme as well. And what Kanye was saying here is true. And what Kanye said about being, his handler, the PSYOP division of the Canadian military, these are huge stories. Like, yeah, they're truther stories, but these are big stories, right? Celebrities are being handled and controlled. You see the things that celebrities are allowed to talk about, like Donald Trump and right-wing stuff. And they don't talk about any of the other stuff. And so they're all handled. I mean, it's fairly obvious. And here's a celebrity saying that and giving good explanation, or good, a good example, because why aren't more celebrities talking about Balenciaga? So we're going to, at the end of this, when I'm done with this section, I'll go to the Hammerman and the Rachel Maddow, and it's just amazing the stuff that they'll cover, the crap that they'll cover. There's another one from Huffington Post. Amid fallout from Mar-a-Lago dinner, Trump calls Ye a seriously troubled man. So I help a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black. Trump wrote Saturday, offering very much needed advice. Always been good to me, he says. Well, that's whatever it is. Mike Pence, Trump should apologize for giving white nationalists a seat at the table. And so here's the issue here. Mike Pence, nobody cared about. Certainly Huffington Post didn't, when he was just Trump's wingman and just being a vice presidential dope. He has no real chance of any political future, at least in terms of being a president or being a serious presidential candidate or anything else. He was vice president under Trump. This guy looks like a real weasel. Is that the Nick Fuentes guy? And so Mike Pence, all of a sudden, just like Dick Cheney's daughter, whatever her name is, Mary Cheney or whatever whatever Cheney, who was going after Trump in the Congress, right? All of a sudden, they love him, right? Anybody who like disparages Trump, who's a right wing person, gets a platform. Same thing with his lawyer is fixer lawyer Cohen, right? So the whole thing is just whatever. It's become just an absolute mess of there's not anybody that's heroic or has any nobility or whatever it might be. Now, I don't think Trump even knew who this guy was, because Trump doesn't know who people are, because Trump cares about Trump. So, but I mean, this is, it was his low energy speech and his overall situation in America just wanting to move on is Trump's bigger problem. And Mike Pence is just always going to be, just some dopey vice president. Buckle up for brutal free-for-all in home prices and housing in a massive bubble, expert says. Here's how bad Jeremy Siegel, Paul Krugman, and 5 others think it could get. House price sales is supposed to take a huge hit here after going up because of the economy collapsing, right? After going up because of the economy collapsing. Alyssa Milano, this is somebody who's a real, fake to Miss Hollywood dope, right? I mean, just really not smart. I gave back my Tesla. I bought the VW EV. I love it. I'm not sure how advertisers can buy space on Twitter. Publicly traded companies' products being pushed in alignment with hate and white supremacy doesn't seem to be a winning business model. I thought there was an Elon Musk. Oh, here's her with make sure to listen to Alyssa. She has such great judgment. There's the creepy porn lawyer who's now in jail for extorting Nike. What else was there? I thought there was a tweet from Elon here. Alyssa Milano as well. Here's her saying something here.
For those of us who are not black men, imagine watching the news and seeing how people...
Imagine being a black man and being told by some white lady with a microphone that you and the criminal on TV are one and the same because you look alike.
The liberals don't even like Alyssa. Here she is. She bought the Volkswagen with, this is associated with Hitler, right? The EV Volkswagen. Here she's supporting some guy, probably a bad person. So the tweeter just, remember this when these worthless giant holes. They're just putting out all of her greatest hits here. And so Alyssa Milano's getting rolled up on Twitter. The media is more angry at Kanye than they ever were about Jeffrey Epstein. It's true. So there's a new Santa Claus movie for whatever reason. And they're bringing out these letters. And, the Santa Claus with Tim, whatever it is, Tim, you know his name. It says, "We love you, Satan." And they're laughing here. That's his wife. That's his kid. That's his kid's buddy there. And
Spelling.
Oh, look, they're shocked. These elves who are really little children, right? They're not really elves. It's a good point, because I've talked about this before, that Santa and Satan are an anagram. Boom, they got it right this time. Of course, here he is dressed in red and the creepy Beelzebub mustache and all. I'm in the editing process, and for everybody who saw this, and I've seen it twice, somebody sent me it on YouTube and then another one on Twitter. But everyone who looks at this, is looking at it now, is saying to themselves on a subconscious level, we love you, Satan, right? I just said it out loud. And so we're all reading that and we're saying it inside our minds or whatever it is. And, you know, that part of it, I mean, there's levels of your subconscious that doesn't know the difference between, doesn't know there's like lying, right? Doesn't understand that there's lying. There's levels to your intelligence that doesn't understand that things can be deceptive and be untrue. And so on that level, you're reading this, you know, you're saying this almost, it's like a mantra, right? It's now inside your brain, you've said it. And all the kids who can read, who watch this, are, you know, this is supposed to be a kid's movie. Why would you have this joke in there? Like, they're going to say it's a joke, but why would you put it in there? I mean, it just brings your attention to the fact that Santa and Satan have a, you know, they have an anagram for each other's names, right? I mean, they have a, you know, closely related name. Brace for violent shocks that may reshape the global economy, warns top economist Mohammed El-Arawn.
Hello, Mom. Hello.
Hello, Trump won. Hello. Hello. Let's do that again.
Hello, Mom. Hello. 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 Hello.
The Joker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Thank you.
He's carrying a bunch of crabs.
You.
I don't know where she was, but that's wonderful. They paid these guys to do this. Okay, so I was pretty much done with the first part of this video, but YouTube recommended this this wonderful video here.
Here is who Kanye West brought to dinner at Donald Trump's house last week.
It's hammer time, right? It's the hammer guy.
Demanding to know, where's Nancy? Stop the hammering out there. Who's got a hammer? Where is it?
I don't know.
Where's the hammer? Is it on the, go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering.
So why would that matter to you, right? Like, Trump is now just a candidate who is not as, doesn't have as much enthusiasm behind him. He has legitimate primary competition with Ron DeSantis, and then there's the national election, right? And there's, you know, all these investigations and things. Why are you concerned about Trump having dinner with somebody? I mean, why is this even a story, right?
So you're either a Catholic or you're a Jew. You're either a Catholic or you're with the Jews. That's how it is. That's the way the world is. So
this guy's a real tool. I mean, you know, I didn't know who this guy was, and I really still don't, and don't care. This guy's an idiot. Like, he just, as soon as he opens his mouth, his mannerisms, what he's saying, how he's saying it, this guy's just a moron. And, you know, not worth anybody's time or attention. He's not going to have some big following. He's not going to revolutionize something. He's not going to have a big effect on the world. And so Ye, who's the most famous person in his party, brought some guests over to see Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump. And the guests, this happened to be one of the guests. I'm sure Trump didn't know who this guy was, right? Why would Trump know who this guy was? Trump is so self-obsessed, you know, he wouldn't take an interest in this person. So he didn't invite this guy. It's a non-story. And there's bigger Kanye stories or bigger Ye stories. The ones I just showed you. One where Ye said the stuff to do with, you know, how he has a handler who works for the, you know, was a part of the PSYOP department in the Canadian military, and the guy threatened to institutionalize Jay in a tweet. So that's a huge story, not being covered by these clowns. And the secondary story would be Balenciaga, which is another big story. Creepy ass Balenciaga. These are stories that people are interested in, right? And they keep on pushing this stuff because of their obsession with Trump. This guy, nobody cares about this guy, right? This guy just happened to basically crash Trump's house. Yeah, he helped him, get in there. And they're making this like Trump is like best buddies with this guy, right? But, this is a non-story.
Anyway, that's that. And when are Catholics going to start asserting their control? I want Catholics to run this country, not Jews. I want this country to be run by Catholics, not Jews.
This guy is, obviously a tool and, annoying. And I'm not sure how anybody would listen to him. But this isn't some horrible thing he's saying. I mean, it is whatever it is, right? I can see why people are offended by it, but given all that's done and said on the internet, this is mild. And I want to add here, just like with Kyrie in the documentary, when I heard this guy's name, or when I was introduced to this, I had never heard the guy speak until just now. I've seen the guy, he looks kind of weaselly, right? But I hadn't heard him, his voice, or any of his points of view. They're promoting this guy right now, which they always do, right? Their obsession with Trump, their obsession with all these right-wingers, and they're promoting him. They're not promoting, all these other truthers, legitimate people who have, there's so many of us in the so-called truth community that have, interesting things to say, different ways of looking at it. But they find the worst possible person and they promote the guy, right? Same thing with Alex Jones or these other tools. And this is them helping to make this guy have a name, right? Because, no one knew who this guy was, and now he is, being put out there by the media. Like the media, by pushing this story, is making this guy have, more of a fan base, more recognition, more notoriety, all these things. They're promoting him.
And I don't think that's controversial.
Even the cowardly lion Mike Pence, who is not Catholic, by the way, is now saying that Donald Trump should apologize for having dinner with that guy.
As I said before, they didn't care about Mike Pence when he was Donald Trump's, peon, right? Like his Ed McMahon. The guy's uninteresting. But like with Liz Cheney, when she turned on Trump, all of a sudden, wow, they're so wise. Let's listen. What do they have to say, right? It's just their obsession with Trump. Like, just stop it. It's humiliating.
Who has been a public racist, white supremacist, anti-Semite for longer than Donald Trump was president. The poison that guy spreads is shockingly new for some people, but our next guest has heard it all.
It's poison. That's poison. The guy's a tool. Like, no one's taking that guy seriously. You guys, you're making stuff up, right? Guys with imaginary power. That guy doesn't have any type of a legitimate following. And the people that follow him, he's like a moron, right? The people who follow him are stupid. Like, they're not capable of anything, right? In terms of, any like national damage, like some national emergency, they're not a threat, right? Maybe locally, maybe to a few people here or there. But I don't even know if they're violent. We're not even seeing. He didn't say anything that was violent, right? He wasn't threatening violence.
All before, and she captured it all in what is now the #1 podcast in the Apple Podcast rankings. The podcast is Ultra, and the podcast
MK Ultra
is Rachel Maddow. Rachel, have you had your little?
Well, I think Rachel quit. Is she no longer on MSNBC, or did she leave in? I don't know. She's got a podcast though.
Tea break between 10 p.m. and now. Okay, good. So, I said that I want the audience to ask all the questions here, and I'm going to stick to it. And I think the basic story of this podcast is going to emerge to people who aren't familiar with it yet. And if it doesn't, they desperately have to go out and listen.
They desperately have to listen to this podcast because there's so many things that Rachel Maddow's got working, that Adam Apple's working, the little Adam's apple there. That Rachel Maddow's been on TV for 10, 15 years, and there's going to be new stuff, new revelations on the podcast.
Turn on those phones immediately, listen to it. So this is Dia Goldie, who, by the way, is a big fan. And
time for hammer time.
Stop the hammering. Call fuck Griffin. I don't care who the fuck to call. Stop the hammering. Empty out the goddamn control room and find out where this is going on. It's either there or out there somewhere. Out of control. Okay, she says, how did you get interested in this story, find out about it to get started?
So I was interested in researching something that happened a little bit later on. I'm interested in Holocaust denial and the...
Wait, you're interested in Holocaust denial? Hello, my name is Rachel, and my interests are talking about Donald J. Trump incessantly and Holocaust deniers, right? Listen to my podcast, Ultra, right? What are you even talking about, right? I'm really interested in Holocaust denial.
The origins of Holocaust denial and how it has persisted. This guy, Nick Fuentes, who you were just showing clips of, who had the dinner with Trump last week, he's a Holocaust denier, and he's part of this.
And I'm really interested in him. I'm going to talk about him forever, right? Like we talked about Donald J. Trump. You know, at some point, your obsession, people are going to have to realize it's unhealthy. Their obsession with Trump, their obsession with people like this guy who no one even knew who he was until he decided to bring him to dinner at Mar-a-Lago and all these things, right? The one thing I want to say about this, and I'm not a Holocaust denier, and I don't have anything against Jewish people, which I've said before. All the Jewish people I've known that have been in my life, none of them have wronged me in any way. And I know there's a lot of people in power who are Jewish that have powerful positions in our government and our system, but there are a lot of people who aren't, right? And so I don't, it's not an issue for me, right? The one thing I would say, though, is how long of a shelf life does the Holocaust have, right? Like, I don't have anything to do with the Holocaust. I have 1/4 of my ancestry is German, but my German grandfather fought against Germans in World War I and World War II. He fought against Nazis. And so I don't have anything to do with it, right? I'm not on the hook ancestrally or any other way. My family isn't, we didn't come from a long line of Jewish haters, and even if we did, I don't have it in me. So the Holocaust, as far as some sort of a privilege or some sort of I've talked about victim consciousness so much and how groups or individuals can use victim consciousness or being victimized to get away with things, right? To use it as a, something to excuse their behavior. Like, I live with somebody, I was in a relationship, marriage with somebody who uses victim consciousness all the time to get their way. Because, that's something people learn to do. They were victimized, and it becomes an excuse or becomes a tool, a weapon to use to, not only defend themselves or, say this happened to me, so therefore I'm doing this. And, pretty much everything that's done, every bad thing that's done in the world comes from a victim statement. I talked about that with the assault cycle on this channel or the other channel. And so when something bad happens to a group, right? The Native Americans, there was over 100 million, there was like 120 million Native Americans here before the white people got to America. And there was a book called American Holocaust. They were trying to call it the American Holocaust. And the Jewish, some people in the Jewish establishment took offense to that, right? Because they felt like they owned that term, right? And so what I'm saying here, like, how long does this exist as a tool? Like, personally, I have 1/4 German ancestry. It's the fashion now for ancestral blaming of people. But my grandfather, who was, German, was my German ancestor. He fought in World War I and II against the Germans. He fought in World War II against the Nazis, right? And it wasn't Christians. Hitler wasn't a Christian, right? At least he wasn't a good one. And so, like, you can say that you've been victimized, but why do the rest of us have to pay for it? Do you see what I'm saying? A horrible thing was done to you. Okay, sure. 80 years ago. And it was not done to every Jewish person or every, type of Jewish person, right? And so how long is it still a thing? They put out a Holocaust movie pretty much every year, something that has something to do with the Holocaust. And again, I'm not denying it. I'm not, I'm just wondering when the shelf life runs out, right? When is it when does it no longer a thing, right? I mean, you can say that about slavery. You can say it about what happened to the Native Americans. You can say it about every group because there's genocide. There's things going on right now. The anti-vax people. Well, what about all of us who were demonized and we were, there's ethnic cleansing going on in countries. What Kanye said about, him being institutionalized by somebody wrongfully and some guy threatening him with that, right? The Balenciaga thing. These are all happening right now. They're real stories, that didn't happen years and years ago. And these guys' obsession with Trump, enough with Trump already. Just move on. 100 years, 80 years, whatever it is, right? It's your ancestors. It didn't happen to you. It happened to your ancestors. And, maybe none of them directly related to you, right? My ancestors suffered huge poverty. That's why they all came to America. Albanian and Sicilian and Irish ancestors and German ancestors. And people came here because they were suffering in their country. People are suffering all over the world. And so just stop with the, just let it go and move on, right? Stop trying to beat everyone else with it so that you can justify your behaviors or your attitudes or whatever it is, right? It's like a form of a privilege.
Movement on the ultra-right right now to try to keep that nonsense alive.
Ultra-right. This was her show's about the ultra-right. She's obsessed with the ultra-right.
I was interested in the origins of that and how it kind of persisted through the 60s and 70s, and ended up finding a backstory to that thing that I was otherwise interested in. That
who has a backstory? The Hammer guy.
Went back to this sedition trial and went back to what the United States was doing during World War II, particularly among people who didn't want us involved in World War II or who wanted us to be fighting on the other side. And when I got into the sedition trial stuff...
Okay, sounds fascinating. Let's wrap up the Hammer guy stuff and get back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Jesus Christ. Crazy sound coming in my ear, this stupid hammering. I told you why I wanted those words cut. It just sucks. It sucks to be out here with this out of control Any thing can come into my ear at any moment. These things. How do you say this guy's last name? Demanding to know, where's Nancy?
Okay, so I wanted to say this, I think, yesterday. It was the first thing I was going to do because I had a good meditation. Some ideas came to me that I thought were important to talk about. But then, there was this, maybe it was Sunday. There was this, I guess it was Sunday, so it was 2 days ago. But there was this, event where Dodgy from Heartfulness talked to Americans. It turned out to be a fundraiser, and it was so bad. I'm thinking about it all the time, right? The past 2 days, I'm working on another Journey series. I released one, and I'm working on another one. And it was so bad, so that happened. Then a bunch of things happened for my other channel, so I didn't get to do what I wanted to do and talk about this. Of course, I'm working with this bulldozer, which is going great, which I'll talk about on my other channel, I think, tomorrow. But anyways, so what I thought was, this idea of election deniers, it's like conspiracy theorists. Election denier, conspiracy theorist. I don't know what other things they have now that they say. That if you're an election denier, you're a bad person. An election denier, right? And the whole reason to have elections in the first place is that people can't be trusted. The whole reason to have democracy is that the people that control the system will try to control it in a, very dysfunctional and I don't know, dysfunctional is the right word, but evil, will control something and exploit other people. We're a people that has owned slaves, right? We're a race, the human race has owned other humans and still does. There's something like 20 million slaves now, even now in the world, which is a substantial number. 20 million is a large number of people. I mean, I think it's like 28 million people globally. If you search it, there's 28 million, legitimate slaves. And then there are servants and working slaves. I mean, there's all kinds of forms of slavery, right? And so human beings' ability to control, exploit, and do evil things to each other and, a systemic way, and the things that have been perpetrated. I mean, just, obviously sexual abuse of children and, killing people for voicing their opinion. And I mean, you think about all the horrible, political imprisonment, all the things that have been done to people, and continued human rights violations. That's the reason that, there's elections. That's the reason why our government exists the way it exists. The whole, founding fathers aspect of our government. And so it's your duty to call BS on elections. It's your duty, this is a check and a balance, right? That the electoral process is always going to be subject to questioning because people will cheat. I mean, people cheat all the time, right? People conspire all the time. And so if you call, out conspiracies, and you could be wrong and you could be a little bit paranoid, everyone has trust issues, but that's part of the checks and balance system. And your ability to vocalize your opinion and keep things in a way that, just that this idea that elections would be considered fraudulent, and what happens then when people lose faith in the elections, right? So the people who are, the Democrats who are pushing this in the, the liberal media, that's idea of election deniers because of what happened with Trump. I mean, it's anti-democracy, right? And they're saying that when you start denying election results, that you're calling into question the democracy. Aside from the hypocritical nature, because Hillary Clinton was, she denied the results of the 2016 election. Aside from the hypocrisy, it's un-American, unconstitutional, and democratic to try to silence people from calling out the, at least the idea that the elections might not be legitimate. And they're not. They're not even, far beyond the Trump thing. The system is rigged. All systems are rigged. No matter how good a system is when it starts, and no matter how, noble the ideals of the system are, and it's, like the Constitution, for example, people will still find a way to rig the system. Money and power, once money entered into the political process, once there was lobbyists, and now you can even have foreign governments buy off politicians, right? And so when you give somebody money, you expect something in return. And so that's why they give you money. They're not going to give you money just because they want to support the democracy, right? Corporations are buying politicians. And so, I mean, that in itself, the level of corruption that's involved, money and power. And so you would naturally assume that there would be election tampering. Elections are, just the money itself rigs the system. If a person has more money than the other person, chances of them winning go up astronomically. Money in any kind of a competition. If one side has more money, better training, better preparation, better, coaches, better, all across the board. And then certainly buying ad time and getting the word out there, all those things. And so this idea that there would be these election deniers or evil people, and then this is just a continuation of this idea of evil conspiracy theories, that people conspire. And it's your duty to call out conspiracies. It's your duty as a citizen to make sure that conspiracies are brought out to the light. And if you're going to be demonized, it's just like demonizing whistleblowers. It's a trend here. And the Obama administration was one of the worst at demonizing whistleblowers and going after whistleblowers, right? And whistleblowers are ultimately, good, right? Whistleblowers is blowing the whistle is a good thing. See, conspiracy theorists and election deniers and whistleblowers don't have any power, right? They're always the underdog. They're always the person who's, David versus Goliath, right? They're not the power. They're never the power, right? Conspiracy theorists, people who call out conspiracies, it's the conspirers that have the money, right? The conspirers are the ones with power and money and control, right? And so the conspiracy theorists are people who are calling out something, and they are going against people. They're talking truth to power. Now, you could be wrong about the conspiracy, and you could be falsely accusing people of things. I mean, that's, people can do that intentionally. The same thing goes for election deniers. It could be a legitimate election, and you could be whining about the outcome, and you get a situation where every election gets called into question, right? And so that's why they're against all these things, because it can become people lie on both sides. But the issue here is that when you have a system that is completely flawed, because the people in it are completely flawed, then there's going to be cheating, right? People are cheaters. And when there's this much money and this much power at stake, and that, there's the ability to fact check everything. And so when you start censoring one side, when you call people conspiracy theorists or election deniers or whatever happened with the COVID people and the anti-vaxxers, and you start censoring one side. You don't allow them to verbalize their positions, right? It looks like now that Apple is talking about getting rid of the Tweeter app on their phone. And so think about that, right? Something like that, where Apple is making a decision because of its ownership to censor Tweeter, which would be, it would be almost worth leaving Apple because of that, right? Like, I love Apple computers and I got an iPhone, but if you're going to do that kind of stuff, right? And again, Elon Musk is a very wealthy billionaire, and so like what Kanye was saying, if you're gonna, if you can get rid of what his wealth was in a matter of minutes, right? Take him out of billionaire status, and all the rest of those things that happened, then what? What could they do to the rest of us, right? And so it's being on the side of evil power, right? Where they're not even willing to let you verbalize your opinion. And it's already, woven into the algorithms. Like on YouTube, there are things that you can say, but won't be promoted. They promote authoritative news. They promote, powerful news organizations. They promote, the mainstream story. And even if you're able to say things, they allow you to say things without suspending your account or whatever it is. They're not censoring you in that way. They can censor you with algorithms and limit people's ability. I mean, they censor and game the search results so that your point of view isn't being seen by people, right? That the algorithms, the computers, the bots are picking, certain narratives and promoting those. Not only is this against democracy, but it's against the free market system. It's against the, competition and it's supposed to be a level playing field in terms of the economic system where the customer, gets what they want, right? Where you're searching for certain things and the algorithm, the search engine saying, no, we don't want, you don't want that, you want this, right? I mean, it's been happening to me recently. Every once in a while it happens where Google thinks I'm a bot. And, I search things every day. And they want me to show they want me to click on pictures of a bus or a motorcycle or something. And, just because I'm familiar with the search engine, and it's the easiest one for me to access, and, the way it's set up, the interface is something that is, I don't have, it's not some sort of a learning curve. But if they're going to bot me every time and say that I'm a robot, right? I mean, it becomes something where, I'll go somewhere else. that doesn't game their results, right? It becomes something where, everyone has to. I talked about this when they had the ad apocalypse. There should have been massive boycotts. The one thing that people have left, and I don't even know if we have this left, because there was a point where in 2015 where corporations started to go on the, there was 60% were against like the bathroom thing that was happening in 2015. And the corporations sided against the popular opinion of 60% of the people. And that's when I knew that things had really shifted. There's been these shifts that we've seen. I talked about this in my other video to do with the COVID, the shutting down of the economy, which is something that never happened. I talked about that yesterday on my other channel. And then there was the, saying that you had to close churches, and now they're saying science was more powerful and more, had more authority than church or God, right? Religion. Science had become the new religion. And then there was when corporations started to take a liberal stand on things that most people were against. And so did actors and professional athletes and things. They were taking a stand on things that were, oftentimes they were on the unpopular side. And so, boycotting still, might still be something, but it seems like businesses don't care because they're going to rewire the economy anyway, going away from a consumer-based economy where the customer is always right. But in all that, it's the only power that people have left is to boycott, and people can't get along, and people are too lazy, and there's no unity. But that would be the one thing that you would do. You start boycotting these corporations when they went against, the Balenciaga thing is a good example. I mean, I'm not sure who was even buying Balenciaga, like what morally, depraved people buy a $3,000 purse with caution tape on it, right? And so, but the overall point here is there's been this huge power grab where they are silencing people and demonizing people for doing something that's your civic duty, right? Which is to question power, question the legitimacy of power, right? And like who would believe that the elections, like people wouldn't cheat in the elections? Like who out there would say, no, there's no way human beings would cheat in elections? I mean, our government has rigged elections in other countries. And so rigging things is something we do, right? Human beings do it, and certainly it's being done all the time in America. Anyways, got to work on my outdoor project, but I just want to get this in there. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.